these are 22 something, and those printable roll-up flexible ones are 3.5. So it's like 6 times less. And it will not be useless. But whenever we get those we wanna use, because there's already companies making the printable ones on the wall and windows, and you will see that. All the solder walls are now 3 uses. Yes. Anyway, we have an insider. They are not selling. Actually, it's not for the new technology. Yeah, these two is totally technology. Because there would be so much pay this overdose and too much for this one star. Way too much. We are going with this one. We have all of solutions. So we actually talk only in that way. Our actual optimal place is not electrical. When it comes to the terrace, if you take the wires like connection that it costs no money, those we can put it there and you can have a charge. I saw the first one, my friend. So there's a cable with panels. How it's called? Charging. Powering for the house. Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to.
Okay.
So this is. I think I'm running a fever. I still want to talk. So yeah. I guess. Yeah.
I saw some paper that was like showing that it's going to be an auditorium over there. Could it be like a little bit misleading for people? Like I saw these papers that was showing like where it's going to be the.
Our speakers are in the auditorium.
But the tunnel is here.
Alright. Okay.
Yeah, the keynotes are there after this panel.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'll go check it out it's before when this starts. I'll bring the lost sheep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a amount of people attending today. Speakers were like from 10 to full house because the lecture times are unpredictable. But the panel was full.
Okay. And the workshops.
Yeah, they were like a sign up full, but some people who signed up for the workshop came, but they were almost full. They were full.
Weather is shit.
Yeah, but last year.
I had a career there,
I didn't know what
but since I'm back, I started to work.
How many years like
So I was part of the Manguan celebration, and then I did 2 years pullover teaching. And I was main organizer. I did that with, you might know guys in Manguan. Yeah, so I did.
we should book it down.
And nowadays I'm in elementary school. And it's an investor start. So you're more like that's the right position. After I got into the startup world, I have seen from the beginning to the end the whole industry. So, I have my own startup as well. Guys, I have done the events organization. I have worked in a startup before, and now I work on the money side.
I have a feeling I have seen you many different places, probably, yeah. Because I was like involved with this
Pasha told me to go when it was still downtown.
Yeah, I was there all the time. I was like hanging out with them. They were still like part of.
And you represent a business kitchen.
It was like the organization in Oulu University. Oulu, yeah.
I have been there as well.
Really nice. They're everywhere. Yeah, and since then I got to know them.
You live in Finland now for some good time. Unfortunately. Why is that?
Well, I always say unfortunately when it's like winter time. In summer it's different. Yeah, but now, like I've been here for 6-7 years. I also lived in Germany actually for 1 year.
Nice. Where did you live there? Oh, really? I come from that.
No way! Oh my god!
I come from a village close by. Yeah.
What was the name?
It's about Natai. It's like 50 kilometers away.
Okay.
But those
Because
are
I traveled a lot around there, and I got a lot of people like after that. I lived there for 1 year. It was really nice. I had the best summer.
did you study there?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You know it.
I know that there's a lot of people coming into Ong actually. Like that it's changed.
So I studied down for 1 year there, and I met my best friend there, and I got like my career changed. I got into photography there.
And you're like picture.
Yeah, Germany for me is like a peak. I always remember.
Hi,
Hi,
I'm Katarina.
I'm Heidi. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Sebastian.
All right.
I'm coordinating Löyly also.
Oh, okay. Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, it is.
I have like 7 people
Do our
and
Absolutely. As long as I have the link.
yeah, of course. And you can find it on our Facebook page.
Is it the one on YouTube?
you're like,
Yeah.
I think I got it.
yeah, I'm going to get my papers out from the home
Sure,
at
definitely.
the end of April.
That's a big deal.
Yes, I hope so. At least
I always remember Lulu as that's nice. Like I met my best friends there. Hi. How are you? And yeah.
I like the city. It's a bit like Oulu, but there's more happening. Like the size is the same kind of, but it's a city, but it's not big.
I would say it's more live than all of
Yeah, and you get everywhere on the bike or easily by walking because it's so like centralized. Well, I've never been there. I just drove from Munich to the Alps.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but that's
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Löyly 2019, where it's all about finding a job in Oulu. In a few minutes, we will be having a panel discussion about Finnish working life. But before that starts, I'd like to remind you about a very special event that's happening tonight in the city center. Starting from 6, we're gonna have a Jälkilöyly event, which is kind of like after sauna. That's where you want to go if you want to try out your matchmaking and networking skills with some bubbly sparkling wine and some nice little bites. And there we will also have DJ music, so you can just dance if you don't feel like saying anything to anyone. But that's going to happen at H2O in the city center. H2O, Health to Organic. It's a nice little restaurant. And this panel discussion will be about an hour. And after that, at 3, we will have a very interesting keynote from Sara Kukkamaa, who is going to tell her story. She came from China, and now she is an alumni of the University of Oulu and working in a very successful business as a CEO. So that is going to happen at 3, and we are going to have those keynotes at the auditorium number 1. But without further ado, let me present to you the hostess of our nice little panel discussion. Marja Melnikova from Business Oulu, the International Relations Specialist. Thank you. There you go.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're about to start our lovely panel. Without further ado, I want to invite here Vera Karam, Sebastian Frey, and Hadi Niksat. Please guys take your places. We need to climb here very gracefully. So yeah, just a short introduction of the panelists. Hadi is here from Iran, alumni in business administration, if I remember correctly, and serial entrepreneur, graphic designer, photographer.
Almost a little bit of everything.
Okay, correct, I nailed it. And then we have lovely Vera. She's from Ukraine, currently student of O University in Education and Globalization program, and enthusiast of O Entrepreneurship Society, and volunteer at Powerbear Pitching, and she worked as a trainee at Stora Enso last summer, so we will hear more about it in a bit. And next we have Sebastian Frey, a lovely German guy, currently works as associate at Butterfly Ventures, which is the leading stage focused VC in the Nordics. University of Oulu alumni in international business management, and a huge contributor to Powerbear Pitching and Oulu Entrepreneurship Society, and many more. So please welcome them with another round of applause. And let's start our panel. So, how is everyone doing? So let's start with your short employment stories. Like, how did you end up here? Why Finland? How long? Tell us something about yourself.
All right. Well, I came to Finland back in 2012, and from the very first year, I started actually working, and my career actually started from very minor job in posting. That's a very common job for most of the students actually. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. So 1 year after I came here, I started a company with the help of Oulu, Business Oulu, City of Oulu, and ever since I've been trying different kind of businesses here in Oulu. I've been working in different companies as a producer, as a art director, whatever I could try, I just tried it. Yeah.
Thank you, Hadi.
I came to Oulu about a year and a half ago, and my first year was mainly without any employment. I was just studying as a master's degree student. Then at some point, during that year I was really involved with different projects, as well as different societies, as Oulu Entrepreneurship Society, and that later on helped me find a job, which was my first job here in Oulu. It was a summer job at a paper company, and I'm sure that you have seen that mill that has a lot of smoke. Not far from city center. That's a paper company here, and
nice smelling.
It's amazing. It has a lot of smoke. It smells really nice. It's also very noisy.
Does it smell inside as well, like in the office?
Well, at some point I bike there every day. So yeah, at some point when I would enter the territory, there's the one spot that it always smelled so bad that I felt like I'm gonna fall off my bike. So I was working there as a summer employee for summer, for like 4 months, from May till August. And also during that summer, I found my internship, which was right here in OAMK. And I'm an yliopisto student, so University of Oulu student, and I found my internship here. I was a program assistant in one of the programs. I'm sure that you, especially if you study here in this campus, you know the OAMK labs. I was a program assistant for 1 semester in EduLab, And after that, I've been unemployed for a bit, and right now I'm kind of hourly employed by University of Oulu and working at Telos Innovation Area. If anybody is familiar with that co-working space, I just do some customer service there right now.
If students at OMC are not familiar with Taos yet, they
Yeah.
will be familiar next year at least. So
Definitely, yes, and
place worth to visit.
that's my favorite place to work. It was like I spent my first year pretty much living there. And it's a really cozy and nice co-working space that, yes, all the students will learn about soon, at least.
Well, so as you all know, I'm from Germany. I had sort of a career there as well. It was a corporate career, so I wasn't really into entrepreneurship. But then in 2015, I decided to come here to study my master's in Oulu, Finland. And that what kind of got me into the entrepreneurship scene. And shortly after that, shortly after I arrived in Oulu in the summer 2016, I actually had, I don't know if it was a lucky shot, but it was really amazing for me because I was able to go to a project in Silicon Valley, and after that, I basically knew the main people I needed to know to actually start a career in Oulu. After that, I got hired then by a business school, and I worked in Telos as well. I have taken part in a lot of different organizations like Oulu, yes, like you guys. I have organized startup weekends here. I worked at the Avanto Accelerator at the university and also here. So that was when my career sort of started in Oulu. After that, I actually moved back to Germany for another year to work in a company I was working before I decided to come back to Oulu again and start basically from zero again, and that's where I got into Butterfly Ventures, and that's where I work at the moment.
Oulu doesn't easily let go of
No.
creative people. Okay, wonderful. Thank you guys for the interest. Well, let's move on to this kind of employment topic and delve a bit deeper. You all have various backgrounds and various experience with Finnish working life, but and based on your backgrounds, was it easy for you to adjust to the Finnish working culture? Any differences compared to your countries, to what you're used to? Please elaborate.
I just start. Since I'm from Germany, which is not that far away from Finland, we have a quite similar style in the business world, and also the culture. So it's quite easy for, I would say, Germans to adjust to the culture in Finland. But working life was a bit different because in Finland it's not as hierarchical as it is in Germany. It's not like as structured in a way, but it's way more friendly and easy approach because you speak with people and name them by their real name and not by their surname. So that's really different. And also, I haven't really experienced huge corporations here in Finland, and rather startups and small companies. So in a way, it's more like familiar, I would say, the working life in that sense than it is in Germany, where I have been working for big corporations. But otherwise, it's quite similar to the life in Germany, I would say.
Okay, yeah. Just the feedback from the organizers when you speak, guys, speak a bit louder and inside the microphone because people can't hear. Okay, Vera, what do you have to say about this?
I do agree with Sebastian's point about a really friendly environment in the Finnish working culture, and that is true. That is true for the small projects, for small teams and young teams, and I have to say that is kind of true also about the corporate sector, the big companies, at least from my personal experience of being an employee, a summer employee in Stora Enso, which is a huge international company. It was such an interesting point for me to see that the people there, even though they are older than me and they have 10 years of experience working in that international company, I did not feel like, coming back from Ukrainian background, I felt like, okay, I'm a summer employee, I'm gonna be this intern that has to serve coffee or that has to do all the dirty paperwork. But actually being there was super interesting because they trusted me. They gave me all the, doing the important documents, creating the international, I don't know, invoices and declarations. And every time, if I did any mistake, it wasn't like shaming me for. They weren't shaming me for that. They were actually encouraging me to do more. Like, don't worry, it's fine. It's fine that you made a mistake. You're learning. And so this trust culture, I feel like it goes through like all of the working culture in Finland. And yeah, I guess that was one point, that like trust. You also. Another thing that I learned, like from the small projects that I was involved with, is the responsibility. They give you all the responsibility, and you have to take it. It's not like, I mean, I don't know. For me, I was before working in Ukraine was mostly like, okay, I have this task, but I'm gonna wait till my work supervisor will tell me to actually do it. Or will
It's very typical in the Eastern Europe.
yes, or will ask me to do it, or will be like, go here, do it. But here it was so weird because I did not experience that at all. It was the other way. I took the responsibility for some part of the project, and then I will be sitting there and waiting till my supervisor is like, where is it? But supervisor never actually asked me, so I never actually did anything. So that was some weird adjustment to this like culture of like, if you take your responsibility, you do it. You're fully you're on it. And the schedule is really different for me. At least in the Stora Enso experience, it was like they started working at 8 and they leave at 4 at sharp. And it's not like literally at 4 nobody's in the office. You're not able to contact anyone after 4. You're not able to to send emails already, because everyone is like, excuse me, I'm already gone from the office. I'll talk to you tomorrow. So
I think this is very typical for bigger companies. If you're not in startup scene where you work 24/7, yeah,
True.
public sector and corporations, they work from 4 to 8, and you have to just deal with it.
But even being like in a for example, TELUS innovation area right now, like the working schedules from 9 to 4, 4 everybody leaves, and for me, I feel sometimes that I'm like the last there because it feels awkward to leave yet. I want to like check out if everything is clean, if everything.
Finnish work life just forces you to have life outside of your work, and that's about that.
What is it like?
Hobbies, friends, and other
true.
things. So that's the positive difference, I guess. Even though at first you don't know what to do with all the extra free time, you just.
I mean, honestly, after having that experience, I'm like, I don't know how I'm probably not gonna fit into Ukrainian working life, because it's they won't trust me. The schedule is gonna be super late and all of that. I cannot
But they're not worthy of you anymore. You will find somewhere better.
I hope I'll find employment here.
Okay, Hari, what's your take on this?
Well, I had two major shock when I came to Finland and started working here. One of them, actually, Sebastian mentioned it shortly. It was that back in my country, we always have to address the supervisor or the person who's in charge with their last name, or we should use like the title, like Mr. Doctor. So when I came here, after 2 months, I got a job. I started working, and I had this supervisor, and I was always calling him like Mr. Yari, and it was really bothering him that I'm calling him Mr. Yari. So like I remember one session, he said, like, we're gonna have a meeting, just you and me. We sat down for half an hour. He was explaining to me that you shouldn't call me Mr. Yari. And then after half an hour, I was like, yes, Mr. Yari, I understand. So it was really difficult for me to understand that, okay, there is no gap here. Like you can always address people with their first name. It's absolutely all right. So this was the very first thing. And the second thing that was really shock for me is that people in Finland, they work slow. And by slow, I don't mean that they're slow in working, but they take their time. In my country, if I call you, if I send you an email, half an hour later, 10 minutes later, I get a response. Here, 3 weeks later, I have to check my schedule. If I have time, I will let you know. And they really take their time, and it really pushes. Like, for example, when I was living in Dubai, they were building this Burj Al Khalifa, which is like the tallest building. And each day they were building one floor. each day one floor. But then here, for example, in Finland, I see that it takes them 2 years to just finish a 4-floor building, and I'm like, okay.
It's all about the stress level management
Exactly,
at work
exactly.
and again work-life balance. So they don't want to
That is absolutely
have
true.
schedule. They want to work, get pleasure from working here, come home and not worry about
Yeah.
not worry about work and stress.
And that's what I think that's one of the reasons that makes Finland one of the happiest countries in the world.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
That's a good point. Excellent. Okay, guys, we reached this topic a little bit, but what do you think about this work-life balance? Like, could Finns benefit from working a bit more and longer hours, or do you think this model of working from 8 to 4 or like 9 to 5 is actually beneficial? Like, please share.
I start. I think. Well, I think it could be a little bit more flexible because, as she mentioned, for example, instead of leaving at 4, I mean, it's not going to cause you any extra stress to just stay a little bit longer, do a little bit of extra. But like this mentality that Finns, especially in the small companies or big companies, they have that everything has to be based on rules. Everything has to be structured, and anything outside of this box, anything outside of this structure is something that I cannot really fit myself in it. For example, I was remembering this embassy of US. This guy, he's really famous in Finland. He was talking about one of his experiences that how Finns they cannot really think out of a box, and he was telling this story that he was a member of this gym, and he was going to this gym every single day. And this lady who opens the gym door would see him, talk to him every single day. And to go to the gym, you have to have this card. But one day he actually forgot his card. And the lady didn't let him in, even though she knew that he goes there every day. He's part of that gym.
He's ambassador of the United
He's
States.
ambassador of US, yes. And still, she didn't let him in, and it just shows to me the mentality that Finns have when it comes to working life. That if this doesn't fit to the structure that I have in my brain, I cannot cooperate with it. I don't let it in. And I feel like if they would be a little bit more flexible in that sense, I think it's gonna be a lot more efficient. It's gonna produce a lot more from working life, and that's how I feel about it.
But again, that said, nobody actually restricts you from working longer hours if you don't want to. So that's totally fine if you want to just work in the
That is
evening
true.
and stuff like that. But of course, most of your colleagues, they just wouldn't be approachable by phone
Yeah.
or anything like that.
That's true.
Well, I do think that it is individual depending on the company that you're working in, of course, or the team that you're working in. And when I was working in Stora Enso and it finished at 4, I have to say that it was really nice. Just because we were not allowed to bring our work phones back home with you, like everything that was at work stays at work. And then when you come home, I literally like it feels like you're starting like like you have two lives. One is a work life, with all the stresses being there, and then all the stress that is there, it actually doesn't leave the office. Like when you come home, you're continuing your life at home. You're continuing your life with friends, family, and it felt really good because they don't intervene into each other. But at the same time, I feel like with all other projects, it's been flexible. Finns are really, they're really open for you. You can work it from home if you feel like that. Like, I don't know, it seems like at least here people are very understanding. In a way, I don't know. Again, it depends from the on the environment of the work. So, yeah. Thanks.
Well, I have seen like really intense working days during the time when I was organizing polar bear pitching. So that was basically I was working 24/7 basically with a bunch of other people.
But that's a project work. That's already
Exactly.
a bit different and time sensitive.
Yes, and it can be fulfilling, and it definitely was during that time when I was doing that work, because everyone else in that project was pushing in the same direction, going in the same direction. So that can be really fulfilling as well. But nowadays, like after that intensive project work, I pushed a bit back or stepped a bit back, and now I have somewhat of a 7 to 4, 7 to 5 hours, like in that time frame, working day. And that can be nice as well if you know how to spend the time you have free during the day, or like in the end of the day, basically. So if you have projects, hobbies, or whatever you want to do, if you have friends you want to see, then that's also nice, and it can be as fulfilling as a great job which you spend all the time to. You just have to find your spot or your preferences in life, and if you have that, I guess just everything can be
you
fulfilling.
can study, you can, I don't know, travel, and it's very flexible. That's what's good about it. Shall we move on? So you all have different education backgrounds, OAMK and University of Oulu, that is still studying. But do you feel like Finnish education system actually like empowers you as students in terms of employment? Practice-oriented courses, case studies, thesis for companies, or some mentoring. What is your experience in that sense?
So I can only tell the story from the university perspective because I haven't been at OAMK. The course itself, International Business Management, is a lot of theory because it's business. There's not like, you don't build anything or you don't engineer anything or develop anything. So it's a lot of theories, a lot of reading, but the teachers there or the researchers there, they kind of support that reading and those theories with a lot of practical information, and they also try to get company information and company insights into the curriculum. So they try that, and I think they're doing a great job. But after all, being a business professional in Oulu is not necessarily easy, because Oulu is more known for like technology, for innovative products, for product development, those kind of things. And you need business people all the time everywhere because they're just around, but it's hard, or let's say harder to get a job in Oulu in that specific field if you're not having a finance background, for example. Because there's like the huge banks and they hire people like that, but if you don't have that specific background, then it's more difficult than being an engineer or developer or coder, or in that sense.
Totally agree.
I guess it's a bit complex question for me. I study education, but most of my work experience is actually like event organization or project management or content management. It's like totally different field, and I faced a lot of questions of why are you going into this company if you're like your education is in education globalization. And I would totally agree with Sebastian. Like especially my program, it's a very theoretical one, and we're not qualified to become teachers. But even if I was qualified to become a teacher, I wouldn't really teach here because I don't really know Finnish language, and like becoming a teacher here is really hard. And again, it's a question of that Oulu is a really IT focused city, and even like last event that we had for jobs was Festipäivä. Like you could just see how all of the companies were looking for IT people or engineers in most of cases. But then can I say that Oulu University didn't help me with finding a job? I cannot say that because most of the events and most of the projects, they were around university. They were around the students that have built the polar bear pitching or organized startup weekend. And so yeah, I do think that Oulu University gives a lot of push for employment. It's not necessarily like they don't actually like take you by hand and take you to a company. You have to find your way through that. But there are opportunities, like compared to at least my home country. As for OAMK, I feel like it is even more practical here, at least from what I've seen from the program that I was working at this EduLab. It seems like they really give this strong push of understanding that you are able to be self-employed, you are able to create your own company, you are able to create your own startup if you want. So I do think that program was really strong in that sense. And yeah, I do think that there is a push. But also it's a question of, at least with a lot of my group mates that are studying education as researchers, not all of them really want to have a push for employment because they came specifically for research. They are interested in going into PhD, for example. So yeah, I do think that Oulu University has just enough of, to start if you want to have an employment.
Thank you. Buddy,
Oh, yeah.
defend your
Well, Honestly, well, first of all, of course, my experience is a lot different from them because I'm coming from OMC. And when I came to Finland to study in OMC, I was really excited. And because I saw that this is Oulu University of Applied Sciences, it's going to be really critical. They really want to push you to the business life and stuff like that. And that was the selling point that I actually came here to study in this university. To be 100% honest, I was really disappointed. I was really disappointed because it was basically all theory, at least in my degree and in my personal experience. It was all theory, and the only reason that I got into the business life was me myself pushing myself to go to Business Kitchen, to all these events. Of course, there are events like this happening in university, but at my time, it was just really bad, and I could also feel like the people in university they don't themselves they don't know what they're like doing with the degree. But I have to mention the best thing that I feel happened was these labs that they organize it, and I think it's amazing. Everybody should go there. Everybody should experience it. It's absolutely amazing. It's gonna push you to your limits. It's gonna give you the feeling of how working life is gonna be, how working with others is gonna be, and
What is there nowadays? EduLab?
EduLab and Game Lab, and I think there's
DevLab.
The DevLab,
Okay,
yeah.
so guys, good advice.
yeah, definitely try it if anybody's yeah.
I totally agree that sometimes, even though the university kind of gives you exposure to some events and companies and projects and networks, you have to go yourself and talk to those people and ask for advice, ask for their feedback, ask if they have positions open or opportunities for traineeship, or like if you can write thesis, because in the end it's you who are interested to stay here and find an employment here, and they necessarily even though they like people might know you and how great you are, they don't necessarily know your life situation and life goals. They might just presume that you're here to study and then continue on with your life in another country. So be proactive and don't be shy. Just talk to your, I don't know, teachers, coworkers inside the project, whatever you're doing, and you might be surprised on the end result. What about business ecosystem? Like when you were studying, doing your projects, you got exposure in different companies, like Polar Bear Pitching, I don't know, All Entrepreneurship Society. Have this business ecosystem helped you somehow to grow and develop yourself? Maybe some also specific events or some instruments like, I don't know, help from the city, help from the public officials, anything like that that you can recommend to the people as well?
Well, from my personal experience, I think Oulu City was amazing in sense of entrepreneurship, because when I decided to start my own company back in 2013, I basically got free help from everywhere. I got help for my accounting. I got help for how to fill out the tax forms. I got help for having a place. Like at first, of course, you don't have enough money to have a premise. So I could go use Business Kitchen, for example. At that time, I don't know, it is
Did
still...
you get some microfinancing grant as well? Or
I could apply for it, but I didn't. But that
As
that
well
also
as something
started
else.
out, for example, that also exists. All these things that the city of Oulu is supporting you, pushing you, basically giving you the opportunity, and it's just begging you for just start anything, and it doesn't matter what it is, but they just giving you all the platform, everything that you need to just start it. And if you don't, I think it's just maybe you're missing some great opportunity.
at least you can start, and even if you fail, it's gonna be great experience.
have
and
nothing to
you'll-
lose.
Yeah, will look great in your CV, because definitely you won't be losing much, especially with microfinancing options that is also available
Yeah.
for startups. So that's great opportunity. What about you guys?
Well, again, I came to study education, but I was like, okay, if I'm going to Finland, well, first of all, I read a lot about Finland being a very depressing country. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna be very active when I come here. I'm gonna do something except for studying. And that's where Sebastian came in. He was posting actually about Oulu entrepreneurship scene in one of the groups on Facebook, and I was like, oh, I'm really interested in that. Let's stay in touch. And we had a call, and he told me everything about polar bear pitching, startup weekend, Oulu Entrepreneurship Society. That's why when I came here, I had no idea what Oulu was about, but I knew that I'm gonna do that and that and that and that, and it definitely, all of that experience definitely influenced my future employment, my future opportunities, and just gave me a very strong basis of network that I have here. Like I know a lot of people who are involved in these projects, and that is really helpful for future.
So entrepreneurship wasn't even on the table for you. You weren't considering.
I mean, I did work in Ukraine previously with more with event organizations, and so I kind of like consider that might be interesting, but I never thought that that would be my path. Is it my microphone? So yeah, it's mostly when I already came here when I established myself more in that field. So yeah.
Sebastian, I know that there is some startup things going on with you as well. So, what do you have to say about that?
Let me just get back to your question. So you asked that was it helpful business-wise or career-wise to be in different organizations and taking part in events and stuff like that?
That's the first part of the question, and then it evolved to entrepreneurship.
So when I go back to that, I actually have to say that just being part of OES, for example, or taking part in a startup weekend or in any other organization you might know, that's not going to do it. Because just being part in it doesn't change anything. So you have to, as you said, you have to be active. You have to hustle. You have to do what you want to do. And I guess one of the best examples, or I might share two, one of them is actually Vera, because I have been involved in different events and organizations in Oulu, so that's why I was able to share that information with basically all the new students which came to university and that year where Vera came. And they all saw the same post on Facebook in that group, but only Vera contacted me, basically. So she got all that first-hand information and she used it. And that's kind of how I started here in 2015 as well. I didn't know anyone at the university. I just knew that I want to be active, I want to get involved in things, and I want to do stuff. So I had a course, or we all had a course, me and different people. It was not just my course, but other people as well, maybe 20 to 30 people. It was about leadership and change, where we learned different leadership styles, and one of them was the leadership style of startups in Silicon Valley. And our teacher or researcher at that time shared an idea with us that he had the idea of bringing the whole course to Silicon Valley and experience that leadership style firsthand. But there was just no funding for 30 people. So after that course, out of those 30 people, I was the only one talking to the teacher and asking him that, can you share that idea with me? I would like to pursue it further on my own and see if I get the funding for myself. And that was the first action I took, basically. And that brought me to Silicon Valley, and I didn't have to pay for it. So if you're just active, as you said, and if you hustle, if you do something for it, I think in Oulu you can reach basically anything, because after all in Finland there's only 5 million people living here. A fraction of those people live in Oulu, because it's too far up north. And you as a foreigner, maybe not me, but other people, they look already different, they are different, so use it as an advantage for yourself. Because you will stand out, because you already look different. So people will recognize you, and if you're active, they will even more recognize you, and they will remember you. And that's all about it.
I see here 2 points. So whether you come here to study something completely different, you have to try and learn something about entrepreneurship, because it might be beneficial and you might bring something to this market that hasn't existed here before, and it's safe environment to try and start up your company. But if you find out that entrepreneurship is just not for you, at least take away this entrepreneurial mindset and attitude to the everyday life, because it can open so many doors for you in your personal and professional life. Like everybody who is sitting here has this experience of working in Finland and doing different projects because they were just asking people, they were networking, they were proposing, they were being active. So that's very cool, guys. moving on. We're still having about 20 minutes to go. So Finnish. A lot of people are afraid to apply or even start looking for jobs in Finland is because they're already discouraged in advance that no, they will never get anything because they don't know how to speak Finnish, or they do, but it's so bad and so basic level that, okay, better not. So please tell that this can be different, please.
Well, I guess we all show the example because we all got jobs in Finland. But I actually have to admit that's one of the pain factors in Finland. Because you don't need the language because you get along with English pretty well, but you actually need it. Like you need Finnish in certain jobs, in certain positions. And then I haven't read many job applications, but in every single one I read, Finnish was at least not required, but mentioned as an advantage to the job position. So basically, yeah, that's a bit sad that it's needed, but I totally understand it. Coming from Germany, people nowadays speak more English, but you actually need German to be able to be in Germany. So it's even worse there. But I would say Finnish is needed, but then there's definitely chances to get jobs without being a Finnish speaker, basically. So not knowing the language, not really getting into it. In my job, I don't really need it, even though I deal with a lot of Finnish startups and Finnish documents. Because nowadays there's a lot of technologies like Google Translate or whatever, and you get the basic understanding of the files and whatever you're reading. So it is possible, but it's not easy, I have to say.
I definitely received several rejections from work just because I don't speak Finnish, and it was kind of like, oh, you know, you're such a great candidate, like all of the everything fits, but you just don't speak Finnish. Such a pity. I'm so sorry. And I was like, okay, it's fine. But again, yes, it is an example that we, I guess, not speaking Finnish, we all still got a job. But it is a very field-specific question. Like, I feel like if we're talking about event organization, startup scene, like international scene, then obviously you don't need that much Finnish. Most of the work I did for Polar Bear Pitching was in English. Most of the work I did for Stora Enso was specifically for Ukrainian and Russian customers. So like all language there was Russian. I felt like I'm back home. But then I don't know. It's a very very arguable like question because on the one hand, yes, you can say like we don't need Finnish language, and then like for example, I want to find employment in Helsinki, and probably there it would be even easier because it's more international city as usual capital cities are. But then you're missing out on a lot of maybe social stuff. Like if your coworkers are gonna be like right now, a lot of Telus stuff is actually Finnish speaking. So I feel like sometimes I'm just missing out on few jokes that they're talking about, you know. So I mean, if you're considering to learn Finnish, then definitely do that. If it is not a consideration, then maybe don't bother and just continue with the field if it doesn't require in Finnish language.
I totally agree with whatever they said, and the way that I see it is that if I'm standing here and there are all the open position, all the works in Finland available in front of me, there will be a very first barrier in front of me, and that would be Finnish language. I mean, that barrier, if it's not there, then of course it's going to enable me to apply to all these jobs. But however, I'm going to say this, that from my experience and a lot of friends that I know, foreigners, that who have been living in Finland for 10 years, for more than 10 years, and still they don't speak a word of Finnish. They still are employed, they're working different companies and doing stuff. And why? Because there's an advantage that they have, and that's skill. And this is always something that I always tell people, like, if you want to work in my company, I don't look at your CV and be like, okay, he doesn't speak Finnish, so I'm not going to get him. I look at what value you're going to bring to my company. Can I sell your skill to someone else? Can I make money upon this skill? If yes, then I'm going to take you. I don't care if you don't speak Finnish or English, or even if you don't speak any language. I don't care. You have the skill, you come to my company and I make money out of it. So I always tell my friends, if you're not concentrating on learning Finnish language, concentrating on learning a skill that gives you the advantage over all the other applicants. So even if you're not fluent in Finnish, still you have a very, very high possibility to get a good job. As I said, like I know a lot of my friends who actually have done this, they speak zero Finnish, like they cannot say a word in Finnish.
Just a follow-up question to you and Sebastian, because you're currently you're working for your own company. Basically, Sebastian is working for VC. But now that you're currently employed and you don't need Finnish or Finnish proficiency, do you still consider studying Finnish? Will it benefit your current job, even though it's kind of international market related? What do you think?
100%. I'm learning still. I'm not that good at Finnish, but I'm still learning. And it's because, for example, when I'm having a meeting with a customer, which happens a lot, we do it in English. It's all right, but I can see that my customer is being a little bit uncomfortable. Like they are not 100% themselves talking to me in English, and that kind of feel like maybe that could have been better if I could do it in Finnish. And that's why I'm like pushing myself to learn Finnish to the working level that I can actually do all my commands in Finnish, and that's how I see it.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I can totally agree. It would definitely 100% better if I would know the language. Basically, because Butterfly Ventures focus on research-based startup ideas, and those researchers are not necessarily in their 20s anymore. So they have so specific information and knowledge in their head what they want to share, and it's difficult for them to share that information in English, and it's way easier for them to do that in Finnish, but I don't understand that. So all the discussion I might have with them is always on a certain level, which doesn't really go deep where it should go. So that's why my colleagues are there, and they have those discussions with them. So it would 100%, as you said, it would be a beneficial factor, definitely.
I guess main takeaway advice here now that if you plan at any point to do something in Finland, to stay longer, to have a career, for other opportunities, just consider studying Finnish at some level for a little bit. At least you will be more comfortable in your normal everyday life, and then if you need to use it in the future, in your future job in Finland, it will be already easier than starting from scratch. Okay, guys, moving now on to the last part of our wonderful panel. What career advice would you give to the people? Do's and don'ts of career development in Oulu specifically. What worked for you, your friends, anything to be avoided, tips?
Well, basically, we have addressed it during the discussion already. So if you consider getting work in Oulu or Finland in general, I can just advise you to be active. Put yourself on the map, make yourself visible to other people. Try to get in the circles and in the networks which actually can help you further with employment. If it's Business Oulu, if it's Oulu US, if it's Startup Weekends, just go to events and places where people are which actually can hire you. I mean, you won't meet us if you don't show up in those certain places, because we're not that much in the city. Like, we don't hang around at Valkia and shop necessarily. So you have to come either to to the university, or in different places where those people are. So all I can tell you, be active, put yourself on the map, show your skills, and just hustle.
My advice would be a follow-up to that. Be confident in yourself, but that confident means know yourself really well. And knowledge of yourself comes from the experience of being involved in different projects, in different fields, in different skills, because if you are involved in different those projects, you can say, okay, I am not maybe so strong in social media marketing, but I am strong in being an event producer. And that gives you a confidence when a person says you're not strong in event producer. And you're like, no, I know I'm a strong event producer. I'm not strong in social media, but I'm a good event producer. Don't tell me that, because I know myself. So knowledge of yourself is really important in finding a job, because it gives you confidence and gives you understanding of what you're good, what you're not good at, and therefore, what to say to a future employer or a colleague.
or on top of that, just to continue in your thought, even if you're done studying, for example, digital marketing courses or whatever other stuff, you can get this practical experience a lot by doing this kind of project. Please continue. You got what
It's just sparked an idea that I mean I am working with startups. I'm working with events. I'm working with marketing most of the time, but I have no background in that. My bachelor's degree is in Arabic language, which is linguistics, and now I'm studying education. But I am still working in business, you know, and I'm surrounded by business people, and that is funny because like yeah, I sometimes feel a lack of theory, but I'm still practicing so much that I understand that I'm strong at that, and people look at my work experience.
And you can definitely put those skills in your CV and look for jobs in these areas as well, because you have practical background as well, and sometimes practical background has more importance than have theory, because theory is just like this: you read a book and you're done.
Well, I'm involved with a lot of small communities of these foreigners who are looking for jobs here, and they all have problems. And the biggest problem that they have, of course, is the Finnish language. But whenever I talk to them, I always tell them this. Again, I go back to the previous talk that I had, skill. So whenever I want to give them a tip, I tell them that, hey, what is the best company in the world that you want to work in? Somebody says, for example, Blizzard, and I'm telling them, what's the dream job you want to have in Blizzard, for example? And they say, I want to be an art director. And I tell them this, go to Blizzard website right now, see the job that they have put there for art director. Read the description of this job and see what is the skill that they are looking for. Set yourself 1 year timeline, and every day, work 1 hour, only 1 hour, on that specific skill. After 1 year, if you couldn't get a job, come here, I will hire you. I promise.
That's very deductive approach from the bottom kind of up there. Yeah, that's take a lot of devotion and time definitely to land a job here in Oulu, but by being active, I would say even proactive, by not, I know it's a cliche, but don't be afraid to step out of the box. Just do this one extra step. Go and talk to somebody. Go and learn something new. Go and sign up as a volunteer for Polar Bear Pitching, Startup Village, any, I don't know, events that Business Soul, Business Kitchen, universities are organizing. You'll be surprised how many opportunities there are embedded in those events, how many wonderful, creative, knowledgeable people with humongous networks are involved into those projects. So just be brave, come out there and do it. We're wrapping up, so if anybody has any questions for us, we will be happy to take them, I guess, already after the panel. Otherwise, thank you all for listening. Marin Belnikova from Business Soul was with you, Hadi, Vera, and Sebastian. Thank you.